Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Well, hello. This is Tim Hayes. Is Carol there?
I'm here. How are you, Dr. Tim?
I'm doing very well. Thank you again for being here and running the board for us.
Oh, you're very welcome, and it's wonderful to have you. I want to let people know that they could call in and talk to you and ask questions at 646-200-4169. And they could also get worksheets at whyagain.com and get the download of the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, by Dr. Michael Ryce. And also to let people know that we are also streaming live at IPMNation.com and check out their radio shows and hosts. And they can come and check out all of our shows and hosts here at earthangelsradio.com. So anyways, it's wonderful to have you. So I know it's going to be a great show.
Thank you. Thank you for being here all this week. And we had a rather lively discussion yesterday about the forgiveness process, and specifically about how some medical doctors are now discovering this as a powerful way to facilitate healing in their patients when the traditional surgeries and medications aren't producing the results that people want.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's wonderful too.
It's happening more and more. There are physicians in Nevada and in Florida, and probably soon to be some in the Seattle area, that are offering the forgiveness process as a tool for helping people remove the things within their mind-body system that are creating dis-ease, discomfort, and eventually the deterioration of tissue. And if you're not familiar with this process, it is, some call it the forgiveness process, because from the ancient Aramaic, the word that was translated as forgiveness is shabag, or to cancel or dismantle those parts of my thoughts and beliefs about myself that don't belong within my system, and all of those things that relate to hostility or fear are in that category of things that don't belong. And the more I hold those energies of hostility or fear in my system and deny and suppress them or use them to try and solve a problem, the more I create dis-ease within myself. We're not saying that anxiety and fear and anger are not good. They're a natural part of our system. What we're saying is that they were designed to be the warning signal for us that we are somehow or another distorting our reality and creating false beliefs and creating beliefs that do us a disservice. And in that process, we're missing the opportunity to make a change in our thoughts and our belief system, which would lead us to perceive the world more accurately and then have more of an experience of love and creativity, which is, and the ancient teachings say that's what we're designed to contain, to express, and to experience. So again, if you go to whyagain.com, WHYAGAIN.com, and click on the link that says Download Worksheets on the right-hand side. On that page, that takes you to wonderful resources to learn what the forgiveness process is from Chapter 24 of Dr. Ryce's book, a free 7-step worksheet you can download and make copies of and use as often as you need to, and 2 very powerful audio downloads of Dr. Ryce working on this radio show with 2 separate people working through the worksheet process. And it literally is a tool which can transform and is transforming people's lives. So before I go on, Carol, is there anybody on the phone that has a hand up? Well, I'm hoping Carol is still there, and that if somebody comes along with a hand up, you will just break into what I'm talking about, because we would love to be here to support people to use these tools. We would love to be here to support people to teach these tools to others, and wherever possible, create a support group for doing that, because as Dr. Ryce points out, one of his favorite sayings is an African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this internet show was created for the purpose of supporting people in doing the worksheet process and sharing it with others. And one of the ways we do that is called the MindShifter group. And I've been volunteering my time for the past 5 or more years to moderate a group every Tuesday night where we will watch an hour of one of Dr. Ryce's videos and then spend an hour and a half discussing it and doing this worksheet process that we're talking about, the reality management worksheet. And the power of getting a group of people together to use these tools, to develop the skills at using them, and to support each other in using these tools really can't be overestimated. There's a way in which watching other people work through issues can free me up to look at things that might seem to be too scary or too overwhelming for me. And it's only in the process of looking at those things in my mind and my energy system that seem to be too scary is the only way for me to get mastery over them and dismantle them. So, Carol, did I hear you come back on?
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Okay. I just want to make sure you heard me say, I'll just talk, but if any hand comes up, please feel free to interrupt me.
Oh, no, I didn't hear you. Okay. Yeah, no, I want to remind people that if they do want to ask you a question, to press number 1 on their phone so we know that they'd like to ask you a question, because otherwise I don't know if they're just listening or if they really have a question. So press number 1.
And again, the call-in number is 646-200-4169. And we welcome calls, whether it's calls about the definitions we're using for reality and for forgiveness and for pardoning, or whether it's a specific question about what's this step number 3 on the worksheet process. The whole point of this internet show is to make these tools available and support people in making these tools available to themselves and others. And I've said this a number of times on the show that we'll sit here and talk for the next 50 minutes, but the show is really not about talking. It's not about a philosophy. It's not about an intellectual discussion. It's about a practical set of tools for improving the quality of one's life. And the way we do that is by removing anything that leads us to feel hostility or fear, and discovering that underneath that, it's possible to become aware of my direct and inseparable connection to my source, the source of creation, my being, and we call that love. And Dr. Ryce is very fond of saying these days that we want to help people restore their awareness to their human life. Now, for the definition of human life, he says, just find somebody who's been around or held a newborn infant and get them to describe to you what they feel, what they are experiencing when they're looking in the eyes of a newborn infant. That we would offer for your consideration is the way we all started in this world. It is our true nature, it's our birthright, and it's something that we can't ever be separated from, but we can get distracted from that. And if we choose to focus our conscious awareness on anything other than that source of our true nature as love, then we create an experience of ourselves as being separate from it, and then all kinds of irritations and frustrations and angers and hurts and confusions get generated from that one very fundamental mistake. What's the mistake? The mistake is to take the focus of my conscious awareness off of my connection to my source as love. There was a discussion that was going on last week in the chat room. Someone had a very difficult time being clear about the difference in this work between the words reality and actuality. So I want to spend a little time talking about that because that's a critical point for most people. In this work,
can I mention one thing before you start? That also people want to ask questions in the chat room to just go ahead and type them in, and I can relay those to you as well. So if they can either call in at 646-200-4169 and press number 1, or write it in the chat room.
Okay, but the other thing is, we've got 8 different guests in the chat room. I don't think the guests get the chat privilege, do they? They can watch it, but they can't comment.
They used to not, but I have seen guests write stuff in the chat room lately. I don't know, since Blog Talk have changed things, that this does allow them to. Some of them, I don't know, because they used to not be able to.
Well, we would love to have questions from anybody, whether they're logged in or not. But if you're having trouble typing in the chat room, there's a process for just signing up, creating a login name, and it's free, as I understand it, and that would allow you to chat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. Mm-hmm.
So thank you for the reminder. We encourage questions either on the phone or in the chat room. And again, if you want to ask something and you're listening on the phone, just hit 1, and Carol will break into what I'm saying and let me know there's a listener there with a question. So the question becomes, what do we mean when we say reality, and what do we mean in this work when we say actuality? Well, probably the simplest way for me to talk about that is to say that in this work, when we refer to reality, we're talking about my interpretation of events. We're not talking about the actual event. Now, in the common English language, what we would normally call reality in this work is what we call actuality. This is what actually happens. This is what actually is going on in the world. And in this work, we refer to reality as my internal construction of ideas and thoughts and reactions and beliefs about what's actually going on. And in this work, the word reality means only those things that I create in my mind. And so as a result, every individual person on the planet has their own separate reality in each moment. Even if there are 10 of us here observing the parking lot I'm looking out over through my office window, there will be 10 separate realities and one actuality. There is a parking lot out there, there's energy out there, there are trees, there are cars, or energy fields that we've learned to interpret as trees and cars. But the 10 people watching will each be creating in their mind a separate reality. Now, how does that happen? Well, it's estimated that in the period of time it takes my brain to fire 10,000 units of electrical activity. If I'm really concentrating and paying attention, I'll be able to be aware of 9 of those bits of information. So there are 10,000 bits being processed by my brain, and my conscious awareness picks 9 of those to construct my experience in the moment. That's pretty out of whack. There's a lot more going on in my brain in every moment than I can consciously be aware of. Furthermore, in that same period of time that 10,000 units of electrical activity are firing in my brain, and my mind is using 9 bits to construct my reality, there are estimated to be 20 trillion bits of information available. So that what's coming in my ears, what's coming in my eyes, what's coming into my contact with my physical senses is roughly 20 trillion bits of information. My mind, my brain, looks at 10,000 of those 20 trillion and then selects 9 to show me in each moment, and then I believe I have an accurate picture of what just happened. That little tiny 9-bit selection out of 20 trillion bits is what I use to construct my reality in each moment. And this is why when I look at the parking lot outside my office window and 9 other people are looking at the same parking lot, we're going to have 10 separate realities constructed. Now you might say, well, this really is interesting, but it's boring and it's not really relevant. And if it stopped there, if it was just about looking at a parking lot, I'd say, yeah, that's true. It's probably pretty irrelevant. But imagine that we're looking at an interaction between people that we really love and we care about. And there are 10 of us in this family, and we're all listening to an interaction or getting a piece of news about someone in the family. Now, instead of just a neutral setting looking out a window into a parking lot, each one of us has a tremendous amount of emotional intensity and investment in the results of what we think we see and what we think we hear and what we believe we feel. And those intense emotions will color, distort, and create different realities for each of us. So let's say that we get a piece of news about one of our family members who's doing poorly in school. And let's say I'm the father of that person, and in and among these 10 family members, we've got a couple aunts and an uncle and a couple cousins. Well, for one of the cousins to hear that his older cousin is getting poor grades in school, it may not be very upsetting at all. But for me as the father who thinks, wait a minute, this is a reflection on me and my parenting, and this means that, my son may flunk out of school and have to live on the street as a bum, and my investment in that piece of news and my interpretation about its relevance and its importance are going to be completely different than the 8-year-old cousin of my son who's not getting such good grades. So it becomes critically important for each of us to begin to understand how our mind works and how in every moment we are selecting from what we hear, from what we see, and what we feel, and what we think, very small bits of information to create our reality in each moment. When conflicts arise and I decide that my reality is accurate and somebody else's reality is wrong, all I've done is increase the conflict. Furthermore, we're living in a culture, we're living in a world, in a society in which we've been trained to believe that other people are causing my experience. other people are causing my anger, my sadness, my confusion, and that other people are responsible for what I'm feeling because they're causing it. Unfortunately, this also means that I'm causing other people's feelings, and so I'm responsible for what other people are thinking and feeling and doing. So if somebody gets angry at me, this culture we're living in convinces us that I need to go change what I'm doing so that it changes somebody else's anger to joy or happiness, or at least contentment. And I would offer that's a recipe for insanity. It's a recipe for what we're living with in this world, in this culture, and around the globe, which is violence, war, greed, hatred, judgment. And it doesn't have to be that way. If we actually understand how our system works, each one of us has responsibility for everything we think and feel. Now, when we first introduce this idea to people, they begin to resist strongly. Why resist? Well, because it means taking responsibility. And in our culture, that word responsibility is usually taken to mean it's your fault, you're to blame, you're wrong, and we want to slow things down and make sure people understand. In this work, when we say the word responsibility, we're talking about a tool. It's a tool that empowers me, and it has nothing to do with blame or guilt or shame or being wrong. It's a tool which, when I pick it up and apply it to my life, it lets me understand I have the ability to respond differently the next time a similar situation happens. So if I respond with anger or fear or sadness or hurt or confusion, when we'll go back to the example of my son coming home with a bad grade, if I pick up the tool of responsibility, rather than focusing on my son and trying to problem solve with him and what can we do to get your grades up and what kind of consequences can we give you for this bad performance, I will realize that I'm feeling some form of negative emotion and turn my attention into myself and begin to take apart and look at what are the thoughts I'm thinking right now that are generating the emotions I'm feeling that I don't want to feel. I might, if I'm trained in how to use the reality management worksheet, I might pick up a reality management worksheet, and I would list the situation that's going on and my emotions in response to it and my thoughts that are generating those emotions, and then work my way down the worksheet until I figure out what is the goal I'm holding for my son or someone else in this situation that isn't getting met, which is causing me to generate my own feelings of anger or frustration or hurt or fear.
Dr. Sam, can I mention that they can get a worksheet at whyagain.com. They can download it from there, and you could actually help them work step by step through this process as well. How could they get a hold of you if they need some additional help?
If they need some additional help, they can reach me on my website, which is www.C as in cat, H as in hat, the number 4, C as in cat, S as in Sam.com, and I'll put that in the chat room. And they can also give me a call at my office if they wish at 815-455-0590, extension 2. And I'm a psychologist in Crystal Lake, Illinois, and I work with these tools, not with everyone that I see, because not everybody resonates with the same tools, but I offer it to everyone I see. This and a variety of other tools that people like Dr. Ryce have made available for free on the Internet. And so we're not selling anything here. This is not about religion. It's not about a group you have to join. This is simply about discovering and then practicing with practical tools to help improve the quality of your life. And I think it's real powerful to say that I have donated one night a week for more than the past 5 years, every Tuesday night. And I'm a therapist, so everybody wants to come see me in the evening hours. So this is the prime evening time. And I've donated my time. I don't get reimbursed for this, but I get a lot of benefit out of it personally because I get to teach the tools, I get to reinforce it, I get to use the tools every Tuesday night. And I wouldn't do that unless it was one of the most powerful and rewarding sets of tools that I've discovered in my 37 years of doing therapy and living life and taking trainings. And I have no hesitation referring this to other people because Dr. Ryce has very generously put these things on the internet where people can have access to them, the tools for free, and his entire book for free. I also promote things like the emotional freedom technique, which used to be available. There used to be an 80-page manual available on the internet for free, a free download in a PDF. Now, it's no longer available completely free, but if people contact me, I can make this available to them, give them the tools for learning how to give themselves an acupressure treatment for anything that bothers them physically, mentally, or emotionally. And routinely, when we do our support group in Crystal Lake for the MindShifters work with Dr. Rice's material, we'll discuss that emotional freedom technique, that acupressure technique that people can learn. And we have, just wonderful testimonials on a regular basis from people who are using tools like Dr. Rice's reality management worksheet and the MindShifter targeted journaling process and the 3 earliest memories of conflict worksheet and the codependence to interdependence worksheet. And they're effectively using these tools toward one end, and that is for uncovering the part of their mind that's actually generating their pain or their sadness or their fear in any situation and dismantling it, removing it. And the more of that we remove from our conscious awareness, the more our conscious awareness is available to focus on our source as creativity and love.
So there's lots of different tools out there for them to use if they choose to change their life, they choose to free themselves of the pain that they've been struggling with internally. There's tons of tools out there that you guys are offering them for free if they choose it.
Yes, and Dr. Ryce on his website, when we say download worksheets and we direct people to download the reality management worksheet, that's one of a wide range of tools he has on his website.
Mm-hmm.
And often people will call in and they'll talk about, or they'll come to a MindShifters group and they'll talk about being stuck in a worksheet, a reality management worksheet, or a forgiveness worksheet as we call it. And they'll say,
do you find that people, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but do you find that people, there's certain things that people struggle with when, like you said, they get stuck, that maybe there's something internally that they're not wanting to release it?
Well, there's always an internal issue. The cause is always internal. And so when they get stuck in a worksheet process, the reality management worksheet process, we'll often recommend that they then do a mind shifter. And a mind shifter is a process by which you take a positive statement and you give yourself an hour or more to free associate and write and journal in response to that positive statement. And in that process, you stir up what comes up in the first part of it is what you're consciously aware of. And then after a while, when you just keep writing and you feel like, geez, I got nothing else to say, but you then rewrite the mind shifter, eventually coming out of your unconscious will be a part of what you need to see to get unstuck. There's another tool on a regular basis. I run into this where people will be doing their own worksheet, and they'll be focusing on what they believe somebody else did that made them angry.
Right.
And when they get really stuck, it's usually because they have done exactly the same thing that the person they're angry about has done, and they're blocking themselves from seeing that. So often I'll have them take a deep breath and step back and describe what are the traits or characteristics of the person that they're upset with. What did this person do that I chose to get so angry at? And so, you know, one example I've used on a regular basis is a woman came in to see me, and she was very upset because there'd been a car accident where somebody passed her on a snowy road late at night and didn't leave enough room and caused a 3-car accident right in front of her. And so she had to get out of her car on a snowy night and go help this woman who was trapped in her car with broken glass, and the woman was bleeding, and it was a very traumatic thing.
Right.
Well, 4 or 5 days later, my patient was still not able to get any relief from her sadness and fear and anger. So she came in for a session, and she did some worksheets about this man and what he did and how angry she was at him, and her anger wasn't dissipating. So I had her stop and take a breath and describe to me what trait or characteristic this person demonstrated that was so upsetting to her. And she thought about it, and she said, well, you know, he was a bad driver. He didn't obey the rules of the road. He hit another car. And then she said, and almost jumped out of her seat when she said, he was just so impatient. And I said, okay, there it is. I had her sit up, take a breath, and ask herself, when had she been impatient in the recent or distant past that she was still upset with herself for? Now, in the beginning, she looked at me like I was talking gibberish.
Two heads, huh?
But then she took another deep breath and thought about it, and then the tears came to her eyes. And I said, okay, what did you think about? And this was a woman who was a teacher, and earlier in the school year she'd had some physical complaints and problems. And because of her physical complaints and problems, she was trying to work through it and tough it out. So she was angry at herself because she had not been as patient with her students as she wished she had earlier in the year.
Right.
So she did some breathing, some tapping, and a worksheet, and it was all gone. I said, so what about your anger toward this man? And she said, I don't have any anger toward this man. I said, well, think about it, visualize it. You're on the road, it's late at night, and he's just caused this accident. And I said, can you get that anger to come back up? And she said, no. I said, well, what are you feeling? She said, well, I just feel sorry for him. She said, all I can think about is look at the mess he made in his life. And I said, okay, then you're done. When I get upset about someone or something else, it is never about them. It's always about my judgments against me. It's about my false beliefs. It's about my holding on to a set of ideas and constructs that keep me from focusing on my true self and my connection to my source as the energy of love. And time again, in my office and in the support group and in my daily life, when we can help people quit focusing outside of themselves and turn the lens inside and see what they are judging themselves for and dismantle that judgment of themselves, their pain, their fear, their sadness, their anger, their guilt, their shame dissolves. And we do that time and time again by applying the tool of forgiveness, which from the ancient Aramaic definition, has nothing to do with pardoning somebody or letting somebody else off the hook. It has to do with looking inside my own mind and my own judgments and finding out how I'm judging myself and others and dismantling those judgments. The tool we use most often in this work is the reality management worksheet. But it's by no means the only tool. And as Dr. Andraki, who was on the phone yesterday, who's a physician in Nevada, as he pointed out, he's continually looking for tools like hypnosis and meditation and yoga to help his patients when they have physical problems that aren't getting resolved. And he was thrilled to find Dr. Ryce's work to add that to his tool chest, because now he's got the reality management worksheet, the 3 earliest memories of conflict worksheet, the codependence to interdependence worksheet, the circle of life and how to play it, which is a tool that lays out the upper path, which has me focusing on myself and realizing that if I'm in pain, I'm in error, and to realize that whenever something happens that I don't like, rather than it being wrong, it's a new source of information from me, for me. If I look at it as though, this moment is not going the way I wanted it to, which must mean there's something for me to learn here. And the list goes on. Dr. Ryce is frequently asked in different seminars or workshops he's giving, what do you do about this situation? And he says, all of the above. You go back to all the different worksheets and all the different breath work we're talking about and all of the different tools for uncovering what I've hidden from myself. Because it's only what I've hidden from myself that can actually hurt me and create the hurt that I'm experiencing in my life.
You know, Dr. Tim, when I do my shows, what I talk to people about is the only person that you really have to stop lying to and be truly honest with is with yourself. You don't have to share that with other people, but just really being honest with yourself of when those feelings and those times come up.
That's an excellent point. One of the things that we've been teaching in therapy fields, I think people that get the therapy idea clearly, one of the things we teach is it's our secrets that keep us sick.
Right.
Now, and people ask, well, how does that happen? And I say, well, listen to this. My mind has to use my mind's energy to hold on to and keep in my unconscious anything I want hidden. My mind
it takes a lot of strength.
It takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy.
I think it's a lot of strength and a lot of courage. Give yourself credit for when you are honest, truly, truly honest with yourself to uncover those hidden secrets, as you call them. It takes a lot of courage to really be honest with that, and you should applaud yourself that I did it, and I'm going to continue to face those things.
And you have to have, I agree, Carol, and I would say add to that you have to have a reason to think it's going to be helpful or productive, because it's not fun and it's not easy, but it's worth every bit of the energy that it takes for you to uncover the material in your unconscious, which is creating fear or sadness or hurt or blame.
Well, each time you do, what is the reward is that you feel this uplifting. You've freed yourself. You've turned the key again on the prison that has kept you that secret. And when you free something up, your physical body, your emotional and your spiritual body all lifts upward.
And
it's all going upward.
Right, and you've got more energy available to live your life. The next thing I tell people is when you're talking right now about the unconscious work, and I move it into the conscious secrets. So every time I decide I'm going to hide something from someone, I have to use my own mind energy to keep that hidden. Then I have to use my mind energy to monitor all the conversations going around me all of the time and make sure I don't let them go in a direction where I might slip up and say something that would reveal this thing that I'm keeping as a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why do I have to do that? Because I have reached the conclusion somewhere within me that if I let somebody know this secret, they're not going to love me, they're not going to want to be around me, they're not going to have anything to do with me. So every bit of energy that I put into holding the secret, I'm pouring an equal amount of energy into feeding the conclusion within myself that I'm no good.
Absolutely.
And that if people find out this secret, they won't love me. So that's the way in which my secrets make me and then keep me sick. This is everything from whether or not I'm hiding candy bars in my office drawer, or I'm trying to keep from somebody the fact that I had an affair, or to keep a secret about I stole something when I was younger. It doesn't matter what the secret is. All the energy I pour into holding the secret and keeping it a secret, I'm pouring an equal amount of energy into feeding my own conclusion that I'm bad or damaged or broken.
Absolutely. Now, the thing is, too, is you don't have to share your secrets with others. The only thing that's really, truly what you need to do is to be honest and true to yourself that, you know what, I've been holding the secret and it's time for me to release it. And that's where the worksheets and stuff come in that's your way of releasing it. And, you know, if you choose to share it with another, that's totally your choice. But the first thing you have to do is be honest and true to self.
Well, I agree with that, and I take it another step, and I talk to patients and parents, especially when they're talking to their kids. And I try to highlight the idea of the importance between secrecy and privacy.
Right.
So this is an important concept from my way of thinking about it, about what you just said. I don't have to tell the whole world everything bad I ever did.
Right.
All I have to do is quit trying to pretend I never did it. If I'm going to pretend I never judged anybody harshly, I was never angry inappropriately with anybody, then I'm going to be feeding the conclusion within myself that I'm better than anybody that I see who is angry inappropriately or jumps to conclusions. And I will engage in the process of judging them without realizing that it's coming from my judgment of myself. And so I will create an image in my mind of them as being this horrible person, and I will go on judging them and being angry at them until I realize, fully accept, that I can't stop myself from doing the very same thing I'm judging them from doing. So I can be aware of what I've done in the past that I'm not proud of, and I can use a tool like the Reality Management Worksheet to go into my mind and find the judgments I'm holding against myself for this behavior of the past and dismantle them. And as I dismantle them, issue by issue, worksheet by worksheet, as you just said, Carol, I get lighter. I have less that I have to work on holding and hiding. I have more flexibility and more energy to meet the day each and every day with more fresh, alive mind energy, because I'm not spending half or three-quarters of my available energy hiding stuff from myself and hiding things from others.
Absolutely.
So one of the other things that is critically important in my work is to help people understand that what's absolutely necessary for abuse to continue is secrecy. Secrecy is the dark and the fertilizer and the moisture and all the proper conditions that allow abuse to continue and grow. So when I end the secrecy within myself, when I own up to how I'm judging myself and I dismantle it, then I quit abusing myself internally. I quit creating the very anger, bitterness, hurt, resentment, shame, guilt, blame that I often project onto others, onto my image of others in my mind. And I convince myself, oh, they're making me feel hurt. They're making me feel guilty. They're making me feel blamed. When I reach into, dig out of the unconscious material in my own mind and dismantle it, I end the secrecy. I realize, oh, like the woman in the example with the car accident on the snowy road at night. I reach in there and I realize, oh, I'm really judging myself harshly for having been impatient with my school children earlier in the year. It's really not about this guy and his impatience with driving. And when she ended that secrecy, she quit the judgment against herself, she dismantled it, and then she no longer had the need to project it onto her image of somebody else. Then she was freed up to feel compassion toward this person. And I would offer that's the end result we're hoping for with all of the tools on Dr. Ryce's website, which again is www.whyagain.com. On the right-hand side of almost every page, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. Click on that. The first 4 links give you everything you need to get started to applying the tool of forgiveness, which means the tool to dismantle any reality in your mind which results in any form of hostility or fear, and lighten your load. Give yourself the result of having more mind energy available to meet every experience and every day, and to shift the focus of your conscious awareness to your source as love.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Support people in doing that. We ask for your calls and questions. And feel free to call in. It's 646-200-4169. And the hour is racing away from us here. There's about 12 minutes left. Did we stir up anything, any comments from you, Carol, in that last little exchange where you want to...
Well, you know, I thought you said it very beautifully. So it didn't stir up anything. You know, I guess that's a couple of things that I want to mention. When something is stirred up for somebody, it's, you know, and it is triggering you. Really, when you get past whatever you're feeling and you've done the worksheets and stuff, take this moment and feel gratitude toward that person, because that's what that person came into your life to do, is to stir those things up, to get that poison out of you. And so taking a moment to feel the gratitude of being thankful and grateful that that person stirred that up so you can get this stuff out, and so you can feel that lightness. You can get to that Rakhma, that love, I think is a wonderful thing. And one thing you mentioned yesterday about the worksheet, I can't remember who it was that was on the call, but you mentioned that to start the worksheets, if you're just starting those worksheets, to start with something small and so you can build up to that. Maybe you want to explain that a little bit more to people too.
Well, a lot of times people will come to the seminars, or they'll start viewing the video that they can purchase from Dr. Ryce's website, and they'll think, oh, great, I've got this lifelong battle with my brother, and we've been at each other's throats for 40 years. I'm going to use that as my first worksheet. And that's a good way to sabotage yourself. One of the things I tell people is, as human beings, we've got a logical side of our mind and an emotional side of our mind. And the next thing is, we make our best decisions when we've got good access to both the logic and the emotion. The third thing is that if I look at an intensity scale, on a scale of 0 to 10 in intensity of my emotions, anytime my emotions, positive or negative, get to be about a 6.5 or a 7 on the scale of 0 to 10, my logic is out of the picture. My logic is now pushed to the back of the bus where it can't reach the pedals or the wheel and can't decide what's going on in my life, and my emotions run the day. And this is the time where I yell and scream at people, or I do rash actions, or I make impulse purchases, and then later I go, oh, wow, I didn't really want to do that. So one of the things we are in need of doing is developing the part of my mind that monitors my own thoughts and my own emotions. And whenever I see my intensity of emotion getting up to be about a 4 or a 5 or a 6, I want to do something to calm myself down, to take a break, to do some breathing. Because if I let my emotions jump up to a higher intensity, my logic is out of the picture. Mm-hmm. And it's not until I calm down my emotional intensity to about that 3 or 4 level again that my logic comes back and is available for me in decision making. Well, if I choose an issue like my lifelong struggle with my brother as one of the issues I want to do a worksheet on, it's not going to be too long before that emotional intensity pushes way up past 6.5 or 7 out of 10, and now my logic won't be available. I won't understand the worksheet. I won't be able to look inside myself. I'll be so full of intense anger or fear or hurt or sadness that I'll just repeat the old patterns of thought, and then I'll come away from the worksheet and have convinced myself, well, this didn't work. Mm-hmm. And it's not that the tool doesn't work on really intense issues. It's that I must first develop the skill of using the tool and applying it to looking inside myself before I start using it on really intense tools. The example we often give is if you have a daughter who's 10 years old and she comes to you and says she wants to learn to play baseball, and you give her a bat and put her in front of a 95-mile-an-hour fastball from a professional baseball team, how long before she decides this is impossible, you can't hit a ball with a bat? Well, if you have a really, right, if you have a really determined 10-year-old, it might take her 15 or 20 minutes before she says this can't be done. Mm-hmm. But in truth, is it possible to hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball with a bat? Absolutely. It's done every year in the pro leagues.
And that's the key right there, pro.
Right, because they started it with T-ball, and they went up to Little League, and they had people pitching to them underhand, and they spent years of practice in batting cages with 40-mile-an-hour fastballs and 60-mile-an-hour fastballs, and eventually they learned through application of skills and practice and eye-hand coordination and timing that you can hit that little fastball at 95 miles an hour with a bat and knock it clear out of the park. This reality management worksheet is a tool that is extraordinarily powerful. It has life-changing implications, but only for those who are committed to developing the skills necessary to use it. It's like having a $4,000 laser-guided radial arm saw with router in your garage, and it gets delivered from Sears, and it sits there, and you say, great, I've got this wonderful tool in my garage. And 3 years later, you come back out and look at it, and you're angry at the tool because there's not a whole new house full of furniture. Well, if you didn't go take the lessons on how to use the tool, buy the wood, practice on simple things, and then get tutoring from somebody who knew how to do more advanced things, and practice, and actually apply the tool, it's not going to do you any good to have it sitting in your garage. The same thing here. Absolutely. Dr. Ryce makes this available free on the Internet, but that's not going to transform your life. The only thing that will ever transform your life is your decision to learn to do things differently. And I would offer that the first thing you have to learn to do differently is make some observations about what's actually creating your experience in each moment. And I would offer for your consideration that what you choose to focus your conscious awareness on is the thing that creates your experience in each moment. everything from whether or not you choose to hang on someone's words and believe what they say and then choose to live your life as though what they said was true. We don't recommend that, by the way. We don't recommend that you believe anything I'm saying here today. We recommend that you actively question everything and that you're actively observing every day of your life for whether or not these things actually work this way in your life. But all the way from that to the idea that you're going to get offended by what a friend or a family member says to you, and then run that over and over in your mind and keep thinking, I can't believe they told me this shirt doesn't look good on me. I picked this shirt out. I spent lots of money on it. I got other people's opinions that says I can ruin a day by choosing to focus obsessively on negative thoughts about something someone did or didn't say. There was a wonderful example here just last week on this show. A woman who's been to the teacher training at Dr. Ryce's retreat center in Heartland called in to tell a story about how she had been on the show the day before, and she talked about these wonderful tools that she was developing, creatively applying her energy and her willingness to share these tools. Her name is Dayu, and she's created the Forgive It Forward and the Project Momentum, which are just ways to spread the news about these tools and help other people learn to use them. Well, I listened to her, and when she was done talking and she'd hung up, I just said, I just wanted to thank her, although I used somebody else's name, for all her creativity and all her energy. And boy, it's hard to keep up with her. She's doing such great work. She heard me say the other person's name and thought I was giving the other person credit for all the work she had done. And that triggered her upset, and that triggered her to pull out some worksheets. And what she found was this is an old issue in her life where her sister should get more credit. Now, in actuality, I was praising her. What she heard and what she got stirred up within her was that I was giving somebody else all the credit and ignoring her. And it was a perfect opportunity for her to pull out the worksheets, do that work, and change not just how she was feeling in the moment, but change the possibility for her future relationships with her sister. And that's the nature of this work. That's the power of a tool like this to clear up anything that's less than love within me and to strengthen my ability to choose the focus of my conscious awareness and to keep it focused on my source, my connection to my source. And if you're wondering what we're talking about, hold a newborn infant. And what you feel in that moment when you're holding a newborn infant, and that joy and that creativity and that inner sense and that vitality and that love, all these different words that can be boiled down to the energy of creation or the capital L, love, that's what each of us was. And that's how we began this existence on this planet. And since then, the thumbprints of fear and judgment and false perception have made their impact on us, but they can't ever destroy that connection to source, that essence of a human being, which is that creative energy, and that source is love. And all of these tools and all of these discussions are directed towards helping us remove everything in our lives that's less than love and return the focus of our conscious awareness to that. And as we do that, we can create the best year yet of our eternal lives, and we support you in doing that. Please come back tomorrow, all week long. Bring your questions, bring your friends. Thanks again, Carol.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you, everyone. Blessings to you, and see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present step internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.